and thank you once again for joining us on yet another episode of Community Connect. Joining us today are Asiyah Robinson and Ned Taylor. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Asiyah is an international student from the Bahamas. She moved to Victoria in 2014, and she has since become very passionate about community engagement and activism, primarily focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Welcome, Asiyah.
Thank you.
And Ned Taylor. Ned was elected as a councillor with the District of Saanich and CRD Director in 2018 during the by-election. And he's 19 years old, and he was born and raised in Saanich. Thank you also for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Ned, 19, and Asiyah, 22. So in the studio today, we have an amazing team of young people joining us. And so we'll be talking about youth engagement and what that looks like in the community. But just a bit about yourself. Ned, could you kindly share just a bit about your experience getting into public service as you are serving right now and what that looks like?
Yeah. I graduated high school a couple of years ago, and I ran in a by-election for Saanich Council. One of the councillors who had been there for some time had passed away, and so they had a special election to fill his seat, and I ran in that election, and I finished 5th out of 10 candidates, and so I thought was pretty good. I thought maybe I'd have a chance at getting elected in the general election, and so I focused on that, and then now here I am. So now for the past few months, I've just been getting into my new role as a councillor and a director on the CRD.
That is such an incredible fit, and at that age too. So what would you say that experience has been? But first, what led you to going into politics?
Honestly, it's a tough question. I've just been super interested in politics for a few years now. I had a lot of passion for that, and that started in high school. And so I'd volunteer and do anything I could to learn more about it. I think the reason I'm so interested in politics is because of just how much of an impact it has on our day-to-day lives. And so I did everything I could in high school to learn more about it, and then right out of the gates out of high school, I just couldn't wait to get into it.
Right, and so you had role models, you had people you were looking up to who showed you the way on how to go on that journey.
Yeah, no, I did. I think a lot of the councillors on Saanich, I got to know them as I made my first run for council in the by-election, and I, learned a lot from talking to them and hearing about the work that they've done throughout their careers, and now to be able to start my own career in politics is just it's amazing. It's everything I love doing.
Exactly. Amazing is the word I would echo in that. It's just incredible. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the lovely Asiyah. So Asiyah, you moved here 5 years ago from the Bahamas.
Yeah.
What has that journey been like?
Definitely an interesting one.
Yeah.
It's definitely been, it's taken me places where I didn't think I would go, in all honesty. I came here just to study at UVic, so just start my post-secondary education, and honestly I had the mentality that I would just go back home and it wouldn't really be about being a part of a community or trying to build a life here. It was really just about school and then leaving. And it was in the beginning of my second year that I found I was very isolated. I recognized the importance of community since I kind of lost it all when I left the Bahamas, and so I was really just trying to find that again. And so I found that I was engaging more in volunteering and meeting people, and I never thought that I would start, thinking of myself as an activist or kind of fighting problems that I see around me, but it's definitely taken me there, and I'm so happy that that's the journey that I've been on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's talk about finding a community away from home. So we have Ned, who was born and raised in Saanich, and Asiyah, who you came across several seas and waters, and now you're finding home and you're finding community. What is that like?
Yeah, I think I had to redefine what home was for me and what a community was to me. I recognized that I used to play golf and music a lot, and so I had teams and I had groups that supported me, encouraged me, and we grew as a team. Every single year we came and we competed, and I didn't realize what that meant for me as a person or my own growth until I'd lost it. And coming here, I found a family through my friends, and the most impactful people that I've met is probably through volunteering and the work that they do in their own communities. And it's kind of spiraled out of control. I met one person mainly in my second year, Anne Cirillo, and I met her, and then after that I just started meeting a lot of other people, getting involved in a lot of other things, and I found that they just pretty much secured a lot of identities in myself that I wasn't really piecing out. So I found a really strong hold in my Islamic community here. We don't really have a large Islamic community back home, so I didn't even think to look for that. But here we have one, and so I'm a part of that family now, and it's amazing. And I find that, you know, being around youth and being at UVic and being in a community that listens to youth voices, I find that's a community that I found. But also being a woman in science, a woman in just academics in general, you know, I found that community. And then being Black, I found a community in kind of every identity that I hold so close to me now that I didn't really think about when I was back home in the Bahamas.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so in talking about volunteering, what would you say led you to that? What was that yearning in you that made you feel like you wanted to do something and not get paid for it?
You know, I didn't really think about it as the fact that, oh, I'm not getting money. I was honestly just looking for something to do with my time that was outside of school. I find when I'm just focusing on one thing, I'm not really able to succeed in that very well because that's all my mind is running on, and I'm not using other parts of my brain. Like I said, you know, I did music and I did golf and I did school all at the same time, and so I always had a lot of things going around me, and I think I was just yearning for that again. And so I started in orientation and student recruitment, and a big part of that was just bringing people to UVic and making them feel like it was a community, because that was something that I felt maybe I'd missed because I missed some of the orientations, and so that was important for me to give that back. And from there, kind of Let's Talk Science was another big one. Science is my major, and talking to youth and experiencing that and letting them realize it's not such a far-fetched idea for you to be in this field. Such an important thing to me, and from those two really, really crucial and important parts of my life, I just didn't realize how much volunteering would impact me or would benefit me. And so I've genuinely never thought about the fact that I'm not getting paid for the most of the work that I'm doing. Yeah.
Right, right. And Ned, so it was pretty much something similar for you as well, being in high school and just volunteering. And what would you say that, how would you say that has impacted your life as someone who was trying to chart a course for yourself, and the work that you do now and what you also see of the future? How would you say volunteering has impacted that?
Yeah, it's had a big impact. It was you know, it's introduced me to lots of great learning opportunities, introduced me to lots of great people who I still know today. So volunteering was a really great way for me to get involved in politics, get right into the thick of it, and really immerse myself in that. And of course, as a 16-year-old in high school, I wasn't able to get a job in politics at that time. And so volunteering allowed me to, you know, to dive right into it, to learn about it, to meet people in local politics and get to know the issues as well. So it was really crucial for me to be able to learn about this and get to where I am today.
And when you see other youths around you, how do you pass on that baton? How do you get them to gain that fundamental understanding of why it's important for young people to get involved in community?
Yeah, I always hear young people are interested in politics and they ask me what they can do to learn more or to get engaged. And I always found that volunteering for political parties or for candidates in election campaigns is a really exciting way to learn about politics and to see it in action. And to get engaged in our democracy as well is just a really special opportunity. So I always encourage people to get involved and to volunteer in politics any way they can. But I've always found election campaigns to be a real special and exciting time for anybody to get involved.
Wow. Yeah, and it's often been said too that youth are the leaders of tomorrow. I would want to hear from your perspectives what you think about that. Asiyah, let's go with you first.
I think in the sense that I believe that we have ideas. I believe that, you know, we're living in this community, and I think younger and younger now, youth are becoming more aware of what's going on around them, the problems, potential solutions, and so I definitely think that we're definitely crucial in the growth and the improvement of the area around us and the community around us, and I think that a lot of people are seeing that and recognizing that, but I also think sometimes a lot of people don't, and maybe don't listen to the youth voices because maybe we are too young. But I think just proving from, you know, the experiences that you have through volunteering, you'd never would have expected that you would have gained those kinds of skills through something like volunteering, but it does speak so much because that's the reason where you are now. And I think that we really do need to recognize more the skills skills that our youth bring with us because of the experiences that they've had. And maybe it's not a paying job, maybe it doesn't come with a title, or maybe it's not a CEO position, but it's definitely something, and it's gained this knowledge and this information from them that helps them drive. And there's so many youth today who are just leaders in their own community in their own right, who are just pushing for initiatives, projects. They don't need support, they just need someone to be aware of what's going on, you know. And so definitely I believe that, you know, youth are just on it.
Thank you. And Ned, would you say leadership for youth is now as well?
Absolutely. I think the tide is starting to turn. I think you know, young people are realizing the importance of the input that they have when it comes to the issues that we're talking about. You know, we're seeing more and more young people get involved in politics in the community, and we're seeing you know, young people really get themselves organized as well when it comes to issues like climate change or the affordable housing crisis. You know, I think young people are understanding the impact that that's going to have on them, on our generation, and also the impact that they can have if they get involved. So it's really inspiring to see so many young people across the world now getting involved in the issues that are going to be affecting their future.
Exactly. And just a note on some of the intersectional things that youth get involved with. How powerful would you say the voice of youth is in shaping what that looks like? So whether it's around climate action, whether it's around gender equity, race and reconciliation, how potent would you say youth presence in those conversations? How important is that?
I think it's extremely important because at the end of the day, we're making, you know, politicians and governments are making decisions that are going to affect young people's future. You know, there's, I remember looking at Saanich Council when I was first getting involved and thinking, you know, this is a great council, lots of experience, lots of breadth of knowledge, you know, but they might not be impacted by climate change in the same way that I am, you know, because I'm still going to be here 50 years from now. And I think young people are starting to realize that, and I think it's really key that we get involved because at the end of the day, it is our future that's on the line when it comes to those kinds of issues.
Yes. Thank you, Ned.
My pleasure.
Asiyah, would you say it's the same?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, you know, I think youth are definitely aware of what's going on, and I think everyone's having these conversations. I personally think the problem is that we're having separate conversations. We're all talking about the same issue, but we're having a conversation over here, and those who have the power to make that change are having the conversation over there, and we're not really coming together as much as we should. I would definitely say that I see a lot of organizations, you know, bringing in more youth, but they're not really staying there, or they're not really being heard or utilized in the way that they could be. And so I definitely think that we are aware. I think that everyone is aware of what's going on, in all honesty. It's just a matter of how do we bring those voices to the table? How do we really amplify those people who know what's happening and have a solution, and they just maybe do need support to push that forward, and they need kind of that community build to make this happen. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, youth leadership is now, and we have youth in the house today who are taking that leadership right by the horns. We'll be back after this quick break.
It's Del Manick, and I'm the chief of the Victoria Police Department. There's a lot of energy, a lot of positive energy that's here, and I see lots of familiar friends and community leaders that have taken time out to be here for the Inclusion Project. So it's nice to see, and it really kind of shows to me that our communities are motivated to make change and to make sure that all of our practices, whether it's policies, whether it's recruitment or hiring people and including them in mainstream society, that there's a real attempt and energy and focus towards that common goal. My overarching message is specific to the Victoria Police Department, and I think it's important for people to realize that there are many, many stereotypes, and I recognize that some of those are actually pointed towards policing and policing in Canada. And are we the immigration police, or are we actually going out and targeting individuals from different diverse and minority communities? And I think the important message for me as a police chief is that we are open and we are honest and we are inclusive, and we want to make sure that everyone knows, no matter when you came to Canada and how you came to Canada or your purpose for being here, that we are inclusive and that we welcome everyone, and we are actually your police department, and we're actually here to help you. I think for the police department, areas that I think we can improve on are recruiting members from diverse communities onto our police force so that our police force accurately reflects the people that we're helping and supporting in our communities. And I think that there's some steps that I can take to improve that. And I think the message that I got from this inclusion project and participating here is that we need to be doing a better job of making sure that our police department reflects our community.
I'm Lisa Helps and I'm the Mayor of Victoria. We are charting a path forward for inclusion in our community. Really, I think delightful is that people are sharing their stories in a really open-hearted way. I think if we can understand and listen to each other's stories, there have been lots of statistics as well, but for me it's the stories that really resonate. Understanding each other's stories, I think, is a really good way to understand what inclusion looks and feels like. I want people to walk away with the sense that talking is not enough. It's what we do together, side by side, that's going to make the biggest difference in our communities. I think really the call to action is quite literally, do something together. And here's a small example. Last year at City Hall, we had a dinner to break the fast with the Muslim community, an iftar dinner. And afterwards, there wasn't anyone hired to clean up, to do the dishes. We just all did the dishes side by side together. And so that's a small example. But when there are opportunities to roll up sleeves together, whether it's in a workplace or in a community setting or anywhere else, I think those are the opportunities where we get the best kind of human-to-human experience, sometimes with no agenda at all, except, of course, to get the dishes done.
Welcome, and thank you for staying connected with us on Community Connect. With us today are Ned Taylor. He's a councillor with the District of Saanich, and Asiyah Robinson. Asiyah is an international student from the Bahamas. Thank you very much again for joining us today. Let's talk a bit about youth and the future of work. What roles do youth have in shaping what that future is going to look like? Asiyah?
Yeah, I think it's a definitely interesting question in the sense that I don't think there's a defined job description or anything like that. I heard someone say it perfectly, is the jobs that we're going to have haven't been created yet. We're creating these roles because we see the demand and the need for things, and so we're creating the space for that. And whether that's more with technology, whether that's just kind of like on the ground and just bringing the two together and making it a more seamless kind of transition, I just think that we definitely have a lot of roles, and I feel like there's going to be a lot more collaboration within businesses than separate siloed sectors, and that's kind of the way that I hope to see it progress. Yeah.
Ned?
Yeah, no, I think you stated it really well. I think our industries are changing every day, and young people are having a real critical role in that. And so, it's really exciting for me to be able to see my peers who I went to school with now start to get into the workplace and have an impact.
Right, right. And what kinds of support would you say youth need when they get into those different sectors, whether it's business or politics or whatever it is? What kind of support do they need to have in place to?
I think encouragement is always key. It's always great when you can have people to look up to or to mentor you and guide you as you learn the ropes of whatever it is you're starting to get involved in. I found that I had a few mentors when I was first getting involved in politics, and being able to see what they're doing and also learn from them, it was really helpful for me. So I think that kind of support is really key.
Right, right.
Personally, I think that we're kind of a resilient bunch. Once we get there, we want to improve. We want to help that growth. I personally think we need more support getting there. I think we need to hear more from people around us and our mentors and people like that saying, volunteering is one of the ways to gain these skills. It's not just you have to get a job. It's not just you have to work in certain areas, but you can gain these skills through these different opportunities. And I find that without telling them that or giving people the opportunity to kind of explore these different realms, I find that we are really simplifying what students can become, what youth can become. And I think we just need more motivation to get there. And then, when we get there, making sure that our voices are heard, making sure if you have us at the table, you're listening to what we have to say, listening to those stories, personal experiences, because I think youth are such a crucial point in their life, especially in businesses, because we have our ear to the ground, because we are among that community. And so having that on your team and bringing that resource and that experience and that personal information is such a key aspect. You kind of just need to listen. Yeah.
One of the other quotes I've heard related to youth is around don't do work for us without us. It's looking at youth as co-creators and people who very well have a better understanding of their own challenges than maybe some of the architects who have been here for forever. But could you speak to that?
I love that. I love the idea of, with us, for us kind of thing, and that concept, because I think it's really important to recognize that, like, again, we are very aware of what's going on, and while we do need your wisdom, we're not saying youth should rule the world in any sense, because there's a lot of wisdom that come from community members who've been working in the organization for 10 years. What's gone wrong, what's gone right, what are the ways that you've approached it, but everyone brings a different perspective and a different opinion and a different kind of motivation behind things. And I think adding youth to that roster and allowing them to apply their lens to it and see the world in a different way kind of opens up all these different ideas. I find that a lot of organizations, they've tried. It's not like they're not trying to do that work. They've tried, but maybe they just didn't have that added lens. And if we can collaborate these two views and bring them together, I just think it's going to be amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I couldn't say it better. I think it's really valuable to be able to have young people's perspective at the table, to be able to have a fresh set of eyes. I've found that organizations, governments, businesses can be dealing with similar issues or have processes set in place for some period of time, and to be able to have a young person step into that and put a fresh set of eyes on that and give that a new perspective is really key and can be really, really valuable.
Right. Right. But talking about representation and diversity and what that looks like, whether it's for youth, for newcomers, for women, whatever, at what point does it then become tokenism? Where we just need that figurehead on the team. How do we help organizations avoid that?
Definitely, yeah.
I think it's really key to to involve people and to encourage that diversity of perspectives around the table. I think I can use my council as an example. In the previous term, it wasn't as diverse, and this term we've been able to have a majority of women and young voices, as well as a number of new voices and some people who have more experience. And it's really key that people with experience aren't necessarily talking down to people with new perspectives, or it's really critical that they listen to our new perspectives as well. And then there's a flip side of that coin as well. It's important that I, as a new person in my job, listen to the experience that others have and the knowledge that they've had. And it's, I think so far I've found on my council we've been able to collaborate really well and respect each other's perspectives, which is really key.
Right, right. Yeah. Thank you.
In terms of diversity, kind of just either in the workforce or just in groups, I think that it's not just important to recruit people there, but what is the environment that they're walking into? Is it the exact same? I think tokenism is when if I'm the only point of diversity that you go to when you're asking a question, then maybe check kind of the community or the organization or the structure that you've built and say, okay, clearly we're missing some gaps, because while I am a perspective and I am one of, and I do in a way represent my communities that I have behind me, I am not the only voice of my community. And so I think it's important to recognize that as well. And in terms of just bringing people on the team, when you have interviews, when you have sessions, when you have groups, not even who are you looking at, but what's the wording around that application? Does it seem to single out anybody in particular? Like, yes, we need skills, but does your wording seem to kind of single out a certain group or kind of stop a certain group from applying and that kind of thing? And I think we should definitely look at that. Yes. And I think in terms of tokenism, I I think in some organizations, maybe we have reached that point when, we want diversity and we think that maybe we've had it and we're kind of settled. And I think the big point of growth is just to never think you're settled, to never think that you have it, to never think you are there and there's no need for growth. I think the big point for every organization, every small committee, anybody, is to really look at, how better can I do this? How much more can I improve? Who else can I bring onto this team? What other perspectives am I missing? And just constantly be asking and engaging that with yourselves.
Right. So never be settled and constantly engage and get better. And we're going to leave you on that note today on Community Connect. Do join us next time for an even more exciting and interesting episode. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoy watching Community Connect as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. Join us next time as we bring you even more exciting and informative episodes of the show. Let's keep the conversation going. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Email us at communityconnectbc@gmail.com. Until next time.